Have you ever wondered or wanted to learn how to digitize the same design as a flat for like shirts and sweatshirts, and also as 3D puff like this on hats? Well, I'm gonna be doing just that this video with a real simple design, TKS monogram, so you guys could follow along as well. Now, before we jump right in, I just want to let you know I'm using H.B.I embroidery software, but any software that lets you mess with the underlay, the density, and the shapes of your design, you should be good to go. And also, thank you for checking out today's video. As always, like and sub for all of your embroidery content. Now let's get into the computer and start digitizing. I really couldn't choose a good logo. I want to do something that maybe somebody could recognize, like a brand logo and stuff like that, but I couldn't find anything that really worked, and I went with this because it's simple enough that I could digitize it start to finish, but it also lets me show you guys all the things that goes into making something 3D puff, because digitizing for flat is pretty straightforward, but for 3D puff there are obviously some things that you want to tweak, and this one I think works perfectly. So let's get this into Hatch and let's get started. And just in case you didn't know, your image does have to be a PNG or a JPEG to be able to be brought in to Hatch. I'm not sure what other formats it might also take, but those are your safe bets, PNG and JPEG. Just drag it straight onto your canvas here and you're good to go. Let's bring this down to 2.5. And we're just gonna be doing two colors. We're gonna start with the flat, digitizing. First thing we're gonna do. Also, when you see me click around and creating these shapes, when I do left clicks on my mouse, I'm getting these straight lines for these solid shapes. Horrible shape. And if you see me curving some things, so that's a left click. I want to make, like, let's say half a circle or a full circle like I'm gonna do. That's a left click, right click, left click. And it automatically creates that even curve if I were to press enter, because these two were left clicks, so straight. Then it just closes that off perfectly. For this circle, I'm just gonna do 4 right clicks, so they're all gonna be curved. And I want to get top, bottom, left, center, so I get a perfect circle right off the bat. I already know what angles I want my letters to be, so for this, I'm gonna put 90-degree angle. That's how it's gonna stitch out. And I have my start point on my left side and my end point on my right side, so it's gonna stitch out left to right in that angle there. So once we have that, I do want to add a border to this, so I'll come over here, create layouts, create outlines, satin, just like that. Let's take care of this now, because this is a circle. A lot of times what happens, it gets really oval, so with that angle, the top and the bottom are gonna get pulled in and it's gonna look like an oval like this. So to avoid that, we're gonna reshape where I know it's gonna be being pulled down, which is the top here, because of that angle, and I'm gonna stretch that way out, passing the satin, and same right here. And I'm sticking those way out because with big solid shapes like this, it does tend to happen a lot. Now the opposite goes for the left and right. They usually get pushed out. That's the whole push and pull compensation you'll hear about, and it'll get pulled down and it'll stick out. So I'm gonna do the opposite of what I did to the top and bottom. I'm gonna bring that in, way in here, and way in here. And I do kind of want to exaggerate just to show you, if we don't get a gap here when we actually digitize it, you'll understand why that's that. Now let's go on to the letters. There are many different ways we could digitize this, even for flats. So let me just throw a few examples at you guys. A mixture of right and left clicks, remember. This should have been, and I click space if I want to change it. So right now this is a left click. If I click space on the keyboard, it turned into a round. Let's change this to black. We could do this with tatamis here, but let's say for this example, we do satin. We could change the stitch angles right over here so that it flows nicely. And then let's say we do this. Change that to satin once again. And then you can mess with the angles however you would want that shape to be. We're not gonna do this for this one just because I want the change to be a little bit more drastic when we go from flats to 3D puff. And I'm kind of thinking it would be for a hat. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it on a hat for this video, but that's kind of like my mentality as I do this for 3D puff. Usually 3D puff is for hats, but the way I'm gonna do this for the flat, it is gonna be a tatami fill. So straightforward, draw out the entire shape. Keep forgetting to change my color, but I had it here in outline. Let's change that to fill, put that in black. And because the circle's angle is up and down, I'm gonna put this left to right. so that they don't cross each other and not come out as bold, or kind of like the stitches just get stuck in there. Now let's go ahead and, well, actually let's do the same thing just because it'll look cleaner. Let's create a layout for the tee as well. We're in satin. Boom. It's going to be the same color. We'll keep it at that just to move forward. Here, if the shape was much bigger, I would also do the same thing that I did for the circle. Move the nodes around so that I don't get any gaps in my design or stitching coming out. I'm actually not worried about that one just because it's going to be a real small shape. I also hold Control on my keyboard, and that lets you do these straight lines. I'm not following the design exactly because it got a little bit morphed when I designed it. I'm not sure what's supposed to happen here. Doesn't matter. Right click, left click, space. Okay, I go to make sure I'm in reshape, and that'll let you change the angle just like that. Go back to select, create layouts, outlines, okay. And now the S. The last layout here, okie dokie. And that about does it. You could also, let's say it was a little confusing when there's multiple colors. What you could do, you right click on a certain shape. So let's say the circle is kind of in the background of everything. I right click it, hide selected, and then it lets you digitize without kind of getting distracted by all the nonsense behind. So let me unhide all. I don't mind any starts and stops for this. I think everything here should work out and stitch out nicely. So I have the circle, border, each letter with each border. So let's say you had done this for a client, left chest, and they said it looked cool, but now they want a hat and wanted it 3D puff. No big deal. We're gonna work with the same digitized file that we already have. We are gonna have to change some things. For one, just for the sake of this video, I'm gonna remove the borders. So this is gonna be puff. You could have the design have it so where the borders are sitting in the back underneath the puff, and that'll give it a bit of an outline. I'm not gonna do that today. I do have other videos where I've done that. I'll link it right up here, hopefully, if I remember. But if not, here's what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna keep the circle and the border the same, but let's go ahead and delete the letters. Yeah, I press T so that I could see it this way. And what we're gonna do is kind of what I was doing in the first one when I was showing different ways to digitize. And we'll start with the K. Usually for hats, you embroider bottom up, inside out. So I'm gonna try to follow those rules. A lot of the times I don't, I just forget, or the designs are simple enough where even if I don't get super picky, it comes out pretty good. Okay, right now we're gonna start with the K. Here is the number one biggest thing when doing these types of shapes, and that is adding caps. Caps are meant for areas like this, where the satin's gonna be stitching left to right, and at the end all the foam is gonna be coming out from this side here. Now you could avoid that without using a cap, and that is by changing the angle of your shape. So let's say your satin is this way. What you could do is close off that corner right there so that no foam comes out of here. This works perfectly fine most of the time, but you should really know how to do it the other way, which is to close off your ends here. And let's go ahead and do that. I've seen people use two different shapes for this technique. The first one is just doing like this. From elementary, I think that's a trapezoid, right? Pretty sure. I've seen people do that. Or other folks add this little thing, this little number here. Sorry, the angle should be right here. So it's cutting off at the end there. I don't know what the difference is. I am just gonna go like this, put that there, and make sure that the automatic trim is off so that then we could add a traveling stitch from where that ends. And I should have started at the bottom, but that is fine. We'll go here, close that off, make sure that one is also an automatic trim, and then we close this off right over here. Fill, change that angle like that. I'll change the density and other things afterwards. And the underlay, right now I'm not doing any of that. I should be, but it's up to you, however you roll. But for now, I just want to get these caps done. So again, another traveling stitch to reach to the other side right over here. Automatic trim off, and same thing. I'll be honest, for me, the shape of this thing and how far I bring it down or up is totally trial and error. I am not a pro yet when it comes to this. So these shapes, as you can see, they're all a bit different. What you do want to make sure is that when you do the shape above it, is that this cap does stick out a little bit. We'll get to in just a second. So close that off. Open shape. Right back up here. Right back up in it. Off. Just like that. And now we go back in here. Let me change my settings here. All right. And then we'll go right over here doing the shapes the way we meant them. Just like that. And now I have this here and the cap sitting right underneath it. Let me change that so it's a bit more like it's facing the actual satin here. I think that would be fine. So we'll start this at the bottom and the top right there. And then we'll come over here, do the same thing. We got a choice to make right here. What we'll do is we'll end it here. We'll do that straight. That looks all right. So now I could come in right here, right close, right here. And for this, we definitely need to change our angles quite a bit. And there we go. These caps should embroider first, and then this right over it, and it all should be dandy. Okay, right here, I do need to put this angle so it's a bit more flat. Nothing here is crazy wide where we get a split, a satin split. But if you do, take off the auto split right there and you'll get rid of that. Let me go in here to the caps because they are looking a bit uneven. Stick these out a little bit more. Like I mentioned, for me, it's big trial and error. I know what I have to do, but the machine does not, and Hatch doesn't. So that's all I am, guys. A lot of you are very kind, give me props and all that. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to do YouTube is not to show off that I could do it. It's just simply to show you guys that I think anybody could do it. I fail a whole lot, much less now, but you just naturally get better at things the more you do it. So point is, nothing is impossible. And yeah, get to it. Let's add a cap right here. Change that. I hope you guys are getting what I'm doing. I'm doing the same thing over and over again. I am gonna finish off the next couple letters. The more complicated one was the K. I'm just gonna speed through this letter and then we'll see if there's any special things with the S. Okay, with the S, we added the caps. Everything's looking pretty good. Let me see if I could copy and paste. When I digitized it and it was all, let's remove these. It was like this. which this is what I want here. This goes pretty wide, but it should be okay. But then obviously right here, the foam would stick out. So I did have to go in there at these angles here. So these corners are closed off. Just like that. Everything should be closed, and we got our caps at the end, as you can see right here. Okay, now let's change the properties to make it actually work. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have to get all of these caps and the satins. Now I'm picking them individually because there are lines underneath like those that obviously I'm not trying to get, or else it won't let me change those properties. But not you. Cap, there you go. There you go. This is a bit more complicated for sure because they all have different underlays. It didn't show anything. So I'm just gonna click it on and then click it off, and then everything will be taken away. Let me make sure I did have everything selected. Okay, perfect. Now that we removed all of the underlay, you do need a little bit of underlay, and that is just a running stitch to hold down the foam when you're starting off. So I'm doing that now. My order of doing things is definitely not the best, but you guys do what you have to do. I'm gonna go ahead and do that for all the 3 letters. Just like this. Just to make things a little bit easier, or sometimes you want to put a stop onto the machine. Best way to do that, just make that a different color. I'm gonna put it all the way to the top, but after the circles. There are really 2 things that you got to do to get good 3D puff. That was one of them, the caps. The next thing you want to do is change the density. Once again, we're gonna choose our object. Let's do it this way now by choosing from over here. I'm holding control to just click what I want. Control and left click. And then manual spacing, or usually it's in auto spacing. You want it in manual spacing. And then this is in inches. I bring it down, I believe, 0.008. I mess around, sometimes 0.009, 0.010. Now in the 008, if you're looking at this in metric, so your millimeters, that's looking at 0.21 millimeters. You can make that more dense. I'm gonna do this with black thread, and I have black foam, so I'm not too worried about that, but you could bump that higher if you wanted to, or if you needed to. And here is how this looks like it's going to stitch out. Same with the border.
I don't know how I didn't notice on the spot. I was too focused on looking at the caps and everything else that the underlay came back. So ignore this part. I find out till I see it stitch out later in the video.
Now, just to compare real quick, here's my flat design. So we're able to do mostly tatamis, a little bit of borders just to make it clean. For 3D puff, you definitely need those satins in there to get the effect. No tatamis on the letters, but the background is gonna be flat, so that's fine. Now, welcome back. The big roll. I'm gonna be using 2 sheets of this. Give me a nice sturdy base and my 8x9 mighty hoop. You guys already know, if you want free shipping when you're buying these, I have a link in the description, code TKStitch25, so you get free shipping on all of your Mighty Hoop / Midwest products. But let's go ahead and cut this to size. This is way more than I need. We're gonna do that. Fold this in half. Don't slap it on there, just put it in like that. And let's get this onto the machine. Right now I'm just putting the colors. I'm gonna have them both run next to each other. So the circle, let's go ahead and do something kind of light. Let's just go ahead and do this pink one here for the first one. So 1, and then for the letters and the borders, we'll do the burgundy for that one. Okay, I'm just gonna center this and let it run. check this out, guys. I'm gonna make these changes so that I could jump in right into the second logo real quick. But I overdid it here on these gaps. The top and bottom is perfect, but I do have to bring these in because I'm getting a tiny gap there. Still much less than what the border covers. And this border is actually really thin, but just with that, the second one, the 3DPuff one, should be 100. Cool, there we go. Little tweaks right there. Now we have no gap on the sides. This side I could have pulled it a tiny bit more, but it's almost invisible to the naked eye. I got this whole sheet here. I'm just gonna place the whole thing on top. I have 2 stops here. I didn't need the next one, this one. So right now I'm just gonna lay down the walking stitch. Nice. Okay, let's see if we could try to do a little play-by-play. I'm gonna slow it way down so we can see it embroider the caps first. Gonna hit go. It's doing that top cap. It's gonna run down to the bottom. And that's because I was clicking on that option of no automatic trimming, followed by the stitch out, the running stitch. Once we got the caps down, then it'll go and do the full satin borders. Well, that's not supposed to happen. There really should have been no underlay besides the running stitch, but regardless, when you guys are doing it, double check. I should have double checked that sometimes when you mess with the properties, things change, such as the underlay. But either way, you get the point. You really just don't want the underlay because it flattens out the puff. It's not that it ruins it, but the whole point is for the puff to stand out. The more underlay that you have, obviously it's gonna flatten it down. Everything is looking nice besides the fact that the underlay was there, but I'm gonna run it through the T. Same thing, we got 2 caps, one more here, and then maybe I'll bring it back when we're doing the S, see how those wide satin stitches look. If the machine is rocking, don't come a knocking. We are done. All right, I'll keep it in the hoop. I think it'll just be a little bit easier to work with for now. Let's remove that excess puff. Oh yeah, this looks great, everybody. We got our caps right in there, holding it down. There are some of them that are way too in there. So that's where I would go in, pull that cap out a little bit this way. Same with this, but it's still holding the foam in nicely. Of course, you still got to do a little bit of cleanup. Just gonna snip this off. And then you usually go in there where you see a lot of puff sticking out through the thread. So in this case, I could definitely put the density higher. I do this just a little bit because then I go over it with the heat gun. And that just shrinks the foam, tightens the thread above it, and you get a real clean result. So here we have our flat and our 3D puff. And there we have it, everyone. Here's the flat one. The flat one looks pretty clean too. There's nothing wrong with it being just flat. That looks really nice. But hopefully there was something in this video that helped you guys out. If you were in doubt, you saw me do it from beginning to end, so it's possible. It's not the scariest or the hardest thing. You just gotta do it. You mess up, it's fine, just do it again. Do the tweaks, move some things over, change the density, do whatever you gotta do to make it look nice, and I promise you, you'll get better at it. I'm still trying to get better at it myself, and even then I could produce decent results. So appreciate you guys for sticking through. Now, if you do want to see some 3D puff done on hats, I have a whole hat playlist that should be in one of these right here, where we do flats, we do 3D puff, we do the sides of hats. All that stuff is the main thing that I've done on this channel, so go ahead, check those videos out. We are also inching our way towards 2K subs for the channel. That's crazy. So as always, remember to like the videos. It helps me out a lot. It helps out the videos out. And sub if you haven't. That's it for me. Deuces.